Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening. Today is the 9th of September, year of our Lord 2024. Welcome to yet another edition of the Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Hinkle, a.k.a. Motown Noah. I got a massive show for you guys today. Probably one of the more electric ones. I'm kind of setting myself up if I say this is going to be one of the more electric episodes, because there's a few things I got to say up top here. One, I've been hammering, bolded, italicized, underlined, nervous beers for like the last 2 hours, because I'm looking at it right now. We've just wrapped up the Detroit Lions versus the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday Night Football. The Lions coming away with a 26-20 overtime win on the back of David Montgomery's overtime. I mean, he carried the last drive, taking us to the 1-0. The Lions went 1-0 this week. Now, the other part of this, I'm already talking a little bit loud. I do need to be a little bit quiet because we're taping this on a Sunday night, very, very late on a Sunday night. Everybody in the house is asleep right now. And it was like this, I'm in this juxtaposition of like, should I just record this in the morning? Like, am I too drunk? And like, am I too sleepy? My sleep schedule has been just brutal the last like week. I haven't gotten any sleep at all. I'm fired up, though. Adrenaline is through the roof right now, but I got to stay quiet, Nick. You got to stay quiet. You got to chill out a little bit. I'm sitting here. I'm talking to you guys about how I don't know if the Lions manage to lose this game. You know, there might not be a segment on the game at all for today's show. And I said to myself, I'm halfway through this game. I said, no matter how this ends, the people are going to want to know. Because if we lose this game, I'm sitting here, we're up, what was it, 17-3? Brother, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm texting everybody that I know, rather anybody that's texting me about the game in real time. Start the fucking plane if you're the Rams. This shit is a wrap. It's over. Good night. Because as soon as I see Matthew Stafford walk out onto the field and he's got a glove on and it's week 1, I say either that's the best omen possible or the worst omen. Like, it's truly a mixed bag of which Stafford are we getting with a glove in week 1. You know what I mean? Because if you've been around the block with Stafford, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And let's maybe unpack that can of worms first, is the Stafford piece of this whole game. Because the playoff game was different. I mean, it's the second time that we've played Stafford since the trade actually happened, but it's the first time that we had played him in Detroit in the playoff game. And so the emotions that came with that, and you know, is Detroit going to get their first playoff win in 30 damn years against Matthew Stafford of all people? And so the emotions of that game were very real. What I realized very quick in this game was that I kind of didn't care, and I wasn't really looking at him through the lens of like, this is Matthew Stafford. This is your king, Nick. Like, this is your GOAT. Because I think I've done a pretty poor job. I've done a disservice to Matthew Stafford and like what he actually means to me. He means everything, right? The most like formative years of my life were Matthew Stafford at the helm for the Detroit Lions, and the myriad of coaches that he went through, namely Matthew Patricia, just like fucking ruining his career. Like, I'll never forgive him for that. To this day, I think Matt Patricia is like public enemy number 1 for Detroit sports fans. At least, maybe I'm projecting a little bit, but right. So everything that comes with it, I was just kind of like, no, like, I just want to beat the shit out of this team. And I don't really care that Matthew Stafford is on the other side of it. And then what happens? Like, we're in the second half of this game and we're getting Matthew Stafforded is essentially what's going on, because it's weird. I mean, the Rams are moving the ball up and down the field on us for a majority of this game. But in my head, my chimp brain, I'm like, I'm not even worried about this at all. It's a tie game. We're down. I'm like, I'm not worried about this at all until suddenly I was worried about it. You know what I mean? And especially because he's doing it on the strength of all of this bullshit no-look passes and all doing the sidearm stuff. You think he knows Clayton Kershaw? Did they go to high school together? I didn't know that. And it really feels like the quintessential Stafford experience, right? And there's the part of you that could say, it's a little weird that the Lions played down to a Rams team that was as banged up as they were. They were without Puka for a majority of this game. They were without essentially their entire offensive line. They were without some major pieces on their defense, specifically in the secondary. Like, on paper, Detroit should have hung 40 on this team, and it shouldn't have been close. And that's what I was saying, not just in the middle of the game when Detroit goes up, but also pregame. I'm like, sneaky. Like, I'm sending messages with like invisible ink effects. I'm like, this game isn't going to be close, by the way, just so you know. You can go to bed early. This game's not going to be close. And then suddenly It was. And, we get to overtime. Dog, we went 1-0 this week. At the end of the day, that's what I care about. It does suck if you're an Amon-Ra St. Brown fantasy owner. Whoops. Whoops. Maybe Sam Laporta too. What happened there? Whoops. What happened there? Now, going into this game, because of the aforementioned injuries to the Rams secondary, I was like, dog, I'm running JMO 4 verts like this whole game. Like, if he doesn't go thermonuclear, if he doesn't go JMO nuclear, like, what exactly did we do in this game? It's sneaky. That's exactly what happened. Like, it was the JMO game. He has a career high in receiving yards. And for a guy, which, by the way, I'm not mad about this. I'm just going to throw this out there. Isn't it funny that we're all watching Kansas City play Baltimore this past Thursday on opening night, and you see Rashee Rice out there? Rashee Rice? Am I drunk or? Yeah, no, that's Rashee Rice. That doesn't sound right, but that is the fucker's name. You see him playing out there, and he's facing 7 or 8 criminal charges, IRL, in real life. Guy's a criminal. Fleeing the scene of a crime, crashing a car, and he's playing in the game. Jameson Williams placed a bet on a college football game in a fucking hotel room and was suspended for 4 games last year. What? I'm not mad at Rashee Rice for the crime, to be honest with you. I don't care. Like, I think he's really dynamic and he's really fun to watch. If I could have drafted him in fantasy this year, I probably would have. I really like him, honestly. I don't care about the crime, but it's the principle. And it's kind of like, wait, so what is this? So to finally, and then the previous year, JMO was coming off in his rookie year, a torn ACL in the Natty with Alabama. So he misses a little bit of time, and it's about acclimating him into the offense. And it kind of felt like this was the game where he finally got to do it in a really meaningful way. And then on top of that, so David Montgomery. So do you guys want to talk about that? What the What? So he kind of channeled like his inner Le'Veon Bell, like the good Le'Veon Bell, where he has insane patience and just waiting for the hole to develop. And then I guess he like added a gear this year and like he's a little bit quicker. I don't know. Hey, can we Hey, so the Lions went 1-0 this week. Can I give you guys a point about Le'Veon Bell? I think he's probably the most, how do I want to say this? He is indicative of an era that is gone in the NFL in terms of guys who will hold out. I don't think there will ever be, not ever, but it will be very rare that there is a player in the near future that actually holds out into the regular season. I think Le'Veon Bell was kind of the case of like, oh, so that doesn't work. That's actually not the approach that we want to take on this thing, because you see even CD Lamb, even though he did end up getting the deal done, it was like that was never really, even if the media would have led you to believe that was going to be a question mark. Oh, is CD Lamb going to suit up week 1? Yeah, he was always going to. That deal was always going to get done. The interesting thing here is like the Jamar Chase thing, that contract, that deal still hasn't gotten done. But then what happened? Oh, he showed up for week 1. Weird. So it turns out it's actually not that beneficial to sit out regular season games. You'll sit out in the preseason and make a big stink about it. Now, to be honest, I don't know if he made that big of a stink about it. I'm not that plugged in on, what's going on with the Bengals. I know that Zach Taylor was like, yeah, he's going to play week 1. Like, we're not that stressed about it. It'll be fine. And then, record scratch freeze frame. You're probably wondering how the Bengals got here. They lose week 1. Gerard Mayo, a dynasty in the making with the New England Patriots. Whoops. And then the other piece of this, a lot of people, I guess, are still mad that Drake May isn't playing in these games. 2 things are true here. One, Drake May isn't good. And then the second piece of this is, even if you think that Drake May is going to be good, you don't want to put him out in these games when the Patriots have nobody to actually block for him, or for him to throw to, or for him to even fucking hand the ball. Well, no, respect Ramondre Stevenson. He's good, right? But if he goes out there right now, like, he's just going to get crushed, and then he turns into Sam Darnold with the Jets. He turns into Zach Wilson with the Jets. Like, we've seen this movie 100 times where you throw out a rookie quarterback and you don't have any weapons to throw to, and you don't have an offensive line to block for you, and then we have to point the finger at you as the franchise quarterback because somehow it's your fault and you're bitch made now. It's like, no, that's what would have happened with Drake May if he was playing in these games. Shout out to Jacoby Brissett for getting the deal done. Fucking 1-0. 1-0 this week, by the way. a lot of people out there, many such cases talking about Joe Burrow being a potential MVP candidate this year. Whoops, what happened to that? Now, granted, it's week 1. Do we want to do the overreaction thing and we say hashtag Bengals are over party? I don't think so, but it was definitely a weird showing. It was a very weird showing around the NFL this week and in week 1. And I got to tell you guys this up front. Unfortunately, the thing that I had been not like halfway complaining about a week ago when week 1 in college football started was like, oh, damn, so a major sacrifice of just being a parent is that we can't just sit around and watch uninterrupted football for 7 straight hours. Yeah, that ended up being I don't want to say a problem, but it did end up being the case with Red Zone today. Like it was always on. Scott Hansen was on for 7-8 uninterrupted hours. He was always on the TV, but I just wasn't able to be as tapped in as I wanted to be. So instead of doing, we go game by game and we talk about everything that happened this week, can I instead give you guys my 3 major storylines from football in general, college and NFL alike, this weekend? The first one I want to go with is something that I probably should have commented on during the preseason, but I didn't because I kind of wanted to let things unfold. I wanted to see what the data would say, right? These new NFL kickoff rules, I think they're awesome. I think they're only good. I think that what's interesting is what we saw in the first 2 games between Baltimore and Kansas City and then Philadelphia and Green Bay the following night in Brazil, which, by the way, the NFL is fucking never going back to Brazil with how those field conditions were, is that, so teams are just going to be willing to eat the extra 5 yards on a touchback. Now it goes to the 30 rather than just let a guy actually return it where they might get out to the 35. They might get out to the 40. That's really interesting. And then you see even the Cardinals, they actually had a kickoff return touchdown this week. And once the actual slate started on Sunday, we saw teams getting the opportunity to return the ball more, which is exactly what the NFL wanted. Things seem to be going as planned to some extent. I just wonder if maybe by the end of the season, if the data will suggest that, again, like I said at the top end of this, that teams are willing to eat the added 5 yards on a touchback instead of it going from the 25. Now it goes to the 30. I mean, that's up from 5 years ago. It was just the 20, and then they tried to de-incentivize touchbacks even more, and then it became the 25, and again, now it's the 30. You just wonder if maybe the league is going to have to de-incentivize touchbacks even more. And so I don't want to get too extreme here and say the 40, but is the 30, you know what I mean? Like if you really want dudes to have to return the football and you want these kickers to actually kick the ball to a returner, are you going to have to make it so punishing that if you kick it out of the back of the end zone, they're getting the ball at the fucking 50, not literally the 50, but you know what I mean? Like there has to be something extreme. I'm still a little fuzzy, as I'm sure a lot of you out there are as well, on what the fuck what are the penalties with the ball not landing in this proverbial landing zone? I understand where the landing zone is, but like the penalties again that are associated with it are a little bit fuzzy. And then the other piece of this is Donald Trump kind of losing his fastball? Was that the takeaway from this weekend? Because I don't know if you guys saw, if you see this, you hear about this. Donald Trump hits Truth Social this weekend. And he's talking about how the NFL has ruined the kickoff, how it was the most dynamic play in football, and now it's just boring. The reason I say I think he lost his fastball is because he had a golden opportunity to, A, blame the libs for ruining football because Joe Biden is the president, or if he really wanted to zag on us, I'm not going to do a Trump impression. He could have blamed Taylor Swift in some way, right? Because if you really wanted to lean into the conspiracy pilled shit that he likes to do and rile up his followers, you guys remember when the Chiefs were in the Super Bowl not that many months ago, 7 months ago now, and everybody was like, "Oh, Taylor's gonna endorse Joe Biden at the Super Bowl," and then that shit didn't happen. You know what I mean? It just felt like a layup that Trump could have blamed libs or Taylor Swift or Joe Biden for ruining the NFL kickoff, and he didn't do that. Instead, he was just like, "Yeah, the kickoff kind of stinks," and that's it. And then the other part of my brain was like, "So what game was he watching where he was like, this sucks?" Because I'm not so sure that he actually tweets for himself anymore. I think there was certainly a point in time where he did, but I think he's sort of almost a Magic Johnson type of character now, where he just kind of has a dude in the room, and then whatever Trump says out loud, somebody just types that into his Twitter or his Truth Social, and then they just put it in the drafts and they chamber it for whenever the moment is the most ripe. So that was he had a golden opportunity to say something funny, and he smoked it. He absolutely smoked it. So okay, love the kickoff rules. I think by the end of the season, once we have a dude who's rattled off like 4 or 5 touchdown returns, I think people are really going to enjoy it, because so far I think it's the right move. And I think 365 days from now, you will see this at all levels. You will see this in the NFL. You will see this in college. You already see it in the UFL. When it gets to high school and shit, I honestly don't care. But I think in the meantime, it's fun. Okay, so what is the second storyline? Hey, what the fuck is going on with this Tom Brady broadcasting stuff? Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? The most unprecedented rollout of a red carpet for a guy joining a broadcast team that you've ever seen in your life. And if we really wanted to, extend the time frame on this, we could go back a couple of months. Hell, we could go back a year. We could go back 2 years from when it was announced that he was eventually going to be joining the booth in Fox. And then he decided that he wanted to actually take a year off and be properly retired. And so that's why Greg Olsen and Kevin Burkhardt got another year together. But I digress. Let's just focus on the last few days, right? So since Friday, maybe Saturday, we've seen there's an entire commercial. An entire 60 seconds dedicated to just Tom Brady, like, starting his broadcasting career. And the commercial is essentially just Tom Brady and a bunch of versions of himself from the past being like, no, you're the GOAT, King. Like, start this next chapter. You're still the GOAT. You're just going to be the GOAT at a different thing. And then modern day Tom Brady's like, yeah, I am, aren't I? That's like the whole commercial. And then at the end of it, they're like, Tom Brady will be back like he's a fucking Avenger. And then he just goes to the, okay, so that was kind of weird. And then the second thing that happens is you watch Michigan and you watch Texas. By the way, not a Victory Lap podcast, but what did we say? What did we say was going to happen in that game? Whoops. Okay, so at halftime of that game, Joel Klatt is in the booth doing an interview with Tom Brady. And he's like, hey, Tom, you got your NFL broadcasting debut coming up on Sunday. The Cowboys versus the Browns in Cleveland. How are you feeling? How are you preparing for it? He's like interviewing Tom Brady, asking about his, like, how he's prepped, and again, how he's feeling. And you're like, what is this? What's going on? So, okay. Then we get to Sunday. And they're doing like tunnel fits for Brady. Like, he's walking off the team bus going to the locker room. But he's actually just like driving. He just drove to the stadium and then is just walking up to the booth. And they're like, there's Brady, like about to do his broadcasting debut. I get it. In a vacuum. I get it. Fox did not spend $375 million on Tom Brady to not have people know that he's calling games for them. You know what I mean? It's Tom fucking Brady. They want everybody to know that you can hear from him if you just tune into this game. Fox has the Super Bowl this year. Brady's going to be calling a Super Bowl in a couple of months, okay? So if you've clocked this the same way that I have, if this is something that you care about, it's only going to ramp up as we get closer. So, okay, we get to Sunday. We watch the Browns and we watch the Cowboys. How did Brady do? I have a lot of leniency. I come up here and, at the end of the day, listen, man, I didn't go to journalism school. I didn't go to broadcasting school. I don't have a comms degree. I only pay attention to this shit on like some like for real, like love of the game type shit. You know what I mean? Like it's just something that is interesting to me. So I don't know what is actually good and what is not good. I just know what I think sounds really good. Brady sounded nervous. He sounded really nervous for his broadcast. And I think the lack of chemistry between him and Burkhardt had something to do with it. I mean, all we've been hearing is that he's been prepping really hard and, he's been like training for this and that he's really trying to make sure that he's putting out a good product in the booth. I think there's some truth in that most people don't actually care about the broadcast. And I think a lot of it boils to a lot of when people say that, broadcaster X is bad or, broadcaster Z or Y is bad. It usually just comes down to the fact that your team lost. And so that broadcaster was actually just praising the other team for kicking the shit out of your favorite team. And so then your brain is kind of like, oh, fuck this guy. Brady just kind of sounded like he was, again, nervous, and then he had some flashes here and there, but you're seeing Brandon Aubrey go out there. He's lining up for a 71-yard field goal. He bangs in a 66-yarder before the play got called dead on, a delay of game. And Tom is just kind of like, wow, yeah, wow. No, brother, get your shit up, King. Because, listen, Tony Romo may have fucked up Jim Nance's Super Bowl call, but you know what I can say confidently about Tony Romo? Not only is he, at the end of the day, a good broadcaster, he was good immediately. Immediately. And the mechanics of it were something that were not lost on him because he just... It's almost like the problem that I have with the guy in a room style of broadcaster. We talked about it most recently with Dwayne Wade when he was calling the Olympic Games with... Was it Ian Eagle or was it Noah Eagle? Who's the younger one? Who's the son? It's Noah Eagle, right? It's cool. It's cool, but you don't want that guy calling big games. Shit, I guess maybe we do. Because Brady was taking it really seriously, which I appreciated, but he didn't feel very loose. It felt like he was trying, again, mechanically to stay to a certain formula, which maybe makes sense for him. He's essentially adopting his own TB12 method for broadcasting. But we'll see how it goes. It was week one. Week one jitters out of the way. Tom, we'll see how you do next week. We will be monitoring Tom Brady as a broadcaster very closely on this program. This is not the last time that you will be hearing about this. Okay, so what's my third major storyline from stuff that happened in college football? I'm sorry, in football in general this weekend. Well, a little bit of a spoiler there. We will be pivoting to college football here. I cannot wait for this Deion Sanders, Colorado, mercenary era of football to be done, to be over. All right? Because it's not even a problem that I have with Deion. It's not a problem I have with Shadur. It's not Travis Hunter. The latter two are two of the best players in the country. They are more than deserving of top 5, top 10 selections in the upcoming draft, right? I believe that at the bottom of my heart. From the bottom of my heart, rather. It's not even a problem that I have with Deion. But the media machine would have you believing that this team is worthy of 9, 10 wins a season. They're not even competitive. They're not good. This is a bad fucking team. And when I say this mercenary era of college football, it's because, yeah, brother, I bet you could kick the shit out of a lot of HBCU teams at Jackson State with two of the best prospects in the country. I believe that you could do that. And then you take everybody to Colorado, and what did you say as soon as you showed up? You said, hey, everybody that's in this team meeting right now, you might as well transfer out because I'm bringing my luggage with me and it's all Louis. Motherfuckers won, 4 games last year? Shit the bed against Stanford, damn near shit the bed against Colorado State. They weren't good. The TCU game was really electric, for sure. I'll give them that, 100%. It was at the end of the day, it was a trap game for TCU. And it takes some stones to schedule North Dakota State, your first game of the season this year, 100%. We all saw what happened in that Nebraska game. The score was not indicative of how fucking one-sided that game was. I turned it off at halftime, by the way. So, hey, maybe the second half was actually closer than I'm alluding to. It was fucking wraps immediately. And so he brings all these kids to Colorado. I'm still trying to figure out who he brought with him. Jimmy Horn is good, for sure. Shiloh Sanders, I don't know. He's had a moment or two. But other than that, you're just kind of looking around and you're like, huh? And you're like, what? So when you're going into this offseason, you think about all the hot seats in college football. I don't think Deion's on the hot seat, even if Colorado goes 4-8. But I think he's just going to be like, all right, my son is gone. Is Shiloh his senior? What's going on with Shiloh? 2 of my sons are gone. Travis Hunter is gone. He's practically my godson. I ain't got shit else to do here because I can't pull recruits and all of the transfers that I'm pulling in fucking stink. So then what happens? Is he on TV in 365 days? I just don't believe he's going. And by the way, I don't think this is me just being overreactionary. I don't think this is just me being reactionary to the first few weeks of the season. This has just been what's been going on at Colorado. If I had to give him some, well, hold on, stay with it, brother. So, okay, 365 days from now, if he's not still at Colorado, he could be. I just don't think he will be. Is he on TV again? Do you think he goes back to TV? Because I believe that there could and probably will be a fake push for him to go to the NFL. Whatever coaching jobs, open up. Does something weird happen in Pittsburgh where Mike Tomlin is like, hey, I haven't had a quarterback in like fucking 6 years, and Russell Wilson and Justin Fields fucking stink. And, we lost 12 games this year, and like, I'm over it. I'm done. And maybe ownership is like, yeah, we just need to mutually agree to part ways. But Mike Tomlin gets to put in a wreck, and he's like, maybe this Deion Sanders character. And then we have to deal with this like pretend tug of war that Deion Sanders is going to make to jump to the NFL, but he couldn't have success at like a mediocre level of college football. And it's like the one thing that I would give him credit for is, I guess he's had success because when he took over Colorado, for all intents and purposes, that was like a 0-win caliber program. They were bad. Colorado was just one of those schools where they were very bad. And then he elevates them to like 4 wins. And then this season, I don't know. Who knows? They're in the Big 12 now. Who even fucking knows who's in the Big 12 anymore, to be honest with you? And so they win, 6 games? Maybe they go to a bowl game. Okay, if they go to a bowl game, Shadur's not going to play. Travis isn't going to play. Is fucking Deion even going to show up to that game if they go to... Is he going to opt out of the bowl game? Is Deion Sanders... You know what I mean? So I'm just excited for it to be done because I didn't hammer this home enough, but it's the media machine that I have a problem with, honestly. I would also love to know if there's ever been communication between Deion and the major networks that cover their games. That he's like, I want Mark Jones... Or if it's Fox, I want Gus Johnson. Because 90% of the games, with the exclusion of this last game against Nebraska, which was on Peacock, are always called by the former 2 guys. And I just feel like maybe that's not a coincidence because we know how particular he is about the people who cover him and how combative he can be against people who say like even one thing about him that's like a little bit shitty. Is he almost like... stay with me for a second while we figure out. Let me get my take detector out. Beep, 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 beep. So like a week ago, Brian Kelly shits the bed week 1 for the 3rd year in a row, which felt great to see. Even if you're an LSU fan, you're just not rooting for Brian Kelly's. I believe you're rooting for your team, but you're not rooting for Brian Kelly, piece of shit. And I said to somebody, I was like, is Brian Kelly like the antithesis of Dabo Swinney, where he's like, he pretends that he loves God, but he also loves the transfer portal. I would love to give some pushback, by the way, as a quick aside, to Dabo Swinney on not using the transfer portal not even to the best of his abilities. He doesn't utilize it at all. Who was the fucker that parted the Red Sea? Was that Moses or was that Abraham? Who was it that did that? Was him parting the Red Sea not essentially just the transfer portal for like the Israelites trying to find am I off base? Okay, I'll just move on to a different thing. So I don't know what the fuck Dabo Swinney's talking about there because essentially the transfer portal is in the Bible. So, okay. But then I was like, it was the genesis of not the genesis, but what I'm trying to get at here is who is the antithetical Dabo Swinney? I'm between Brian Kelly and Deion Sanders. Because they are obsessed with the transfer portal. Brian Kelly is such a piece of shit, dude. There's nobody I don't know if there's anybody in sports who I respect less as like a dude. Where I know for a fact that if Jimmy Butler knocked on my door right now, I talk all of the shit in the world about him. If he knocked on my door right now, I would shake his hand and be like, how you doing, dude? Like, I've never said a bad thing about you in the world. Brian Kelly, I would just like... I wouldn't say anything mean to him because I would respect him as a man enough that I wouldn't just like bullshit him to his face. But I would definitely sun him and I wouldn't make eye contact with him. And I would be like, I just fucking hate you. I just think you're a bad man. I just think you're a bad dude. I need to get off of this because I'm starting to not go anywhere with it. I hate Brian Kelly is where I'm going with this. Talking about slamming his damn fist on the... How do you think he felt about Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois? Does he feel as good about that as everybody else did? I felt really good about that. Didn't watch a single snap of that game, to be honest with you guys. The Michigan-Texas game, do I got anything I want to say on it really quick? No, actually, I have something even better to say. Hey, so you know who's not 1-1? You know who's 2-0 is Michigan State. Whoops. Whoa, Michigan State, kind of a real program. Suddenly, record scratch freeze frame. You're probably wondering how Michigan State got here. They're fucking good. They're not good, but that's an actual team. My father-in-law calls me at halftime of the Michigan State Maryland game, and I had just gotten my son down for a nap. It was just me and him home, and he starts calling me, and I like sprint into the next room. I hit accept the call. Hello, and he just goes, "What'd you think?" Oh, okay. So we're just getting right into it. I I respect it. And so we're chopping it up about this game. I don't care, that Aiden Childs apparently is going to have a problem in every single game this year with red zone turnovers. Okay, so that's just going to be a thing. That's fine, dude. The kid is 18 years old. I know, like with the NBA is a good example. There's a lot of rookies that'll come into the league and they're like 20 years old and we're like, oh, but, give this kid a chance. I'm like, he's 20. Like, I get in a vacuum, he's a kid, but he's fucking 20. So, like, Aiden Childs is 18. There is a big difference between 18 and 20. I'm giving him the entire year to figure it out. If he wants to throw 3 interceptions every single game, brother, as long as we go 7-5, that's okay, because you'll figure it out next year. And then the other piece of this is, and this is something I mentioned after the Florida Atlantic win, is we have a quarterback who is willing to throw the ball 30 yards down the field in the air, by the way. I'm not talking about like you throw a little RPO check down and then you get the ball to your playmaker in space and they take the ball 30. I'm talking 30 yards in the air. Aiden Childs wants to do that. He'll iron out chemistry with guys and, I'm not worried about it. At the end of the day, that Maryland game was a big litmus test and Michigan State pulled it off. By the way, top of the Big Ten right now. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to be able to say that for pretty much the rest of the year. So I just want to get that out right now. That Michigan State is number one. Leaders, top of the top, cream of the crop. Unintentional rhyme. I do that from time to time. Dr. Seuss in this news of the Big Ten, the Michigan State Spartans. By the way, the Detroit Lions, have you seen this? Have you heard about this? Have I mentioned this? That they're 1-0, that they beat the Rams today? Huh. Folks, what do you say we jump into some emails? We got a lot of them. Truly some of the best participation ever on this program. I think since the last show that we did, there's probably like 30 or 40 emails. It was honestly tough to pick which ones I wanted to do for today's show. And there's a very good chance that some of them that I don't get to, we're going to get back to in the next episode. So folks, let's jump into it. copinghoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically. Email available in the description wherever it is that you listen to this program. Maybe we just kind of like blow through as many as we can. Yeah, let's try to do that. This one comes into us from Landon. Landon, welcome to the show. Subject line, random things you might think are interesting. The first thing, you mentioned a few times how people in Phoenix get mad when you call them a small market because they are the 4th biggest city in America, but I just moved to Phoenix for college. And the only reason that Phoenix is the 4th biggest city is because the suburbs are huge. The market isn't that big downtown, and Phoenix is probably comparable to Denver. So despite the population, they are still small market. They are still a small market, and you were right. Thank you for the affirmation there, Landon. I have nothing to say to that, but I appreciate you affirming me in that. The second thing, also, because I always listen to your podcast at work, when I lived in Michigan, go green, parenthetically, go white, by the way. When I get time to listen to it in college, it is a little bit of a comfort podcast that makes me, oh, well, so you're just saying something nice to me. That is interesting to me, but it's not going to be interesting to the other listeners. That is a very nice that is a very kind thing of you to say, though. So thank you, Landon, for that. Here we go. This is why I'm reading the email. The third thing you said. This is from something that you said like a month ago when your girlfriend was on the podcast and you mentioned that you wanted the most radically conservative person that you could find on your show. And I thought that you think it was funny that a few years ago, that person was me, whose top 3 podcasts were the Matt Walsh Show, the Ben Shapiro Show, and the Bun and Cardigan Show. Now, folks, for those of you who do not know what the Bun and Cardigan Show is, but surely you know the other 2 shows that he listened. The Bun and Cardigan Show was the Detroit Pistons podcast that I did with James Edwards III of The Athletic. So it's just very funny. And then I got to give you credit here, Landon. You did say parenthetically, I promise I'm no longer a douchebag like I was back then, and you don't have to block all future emails from me. I just thought you'd think it was funny. That is fucking funny. Do you want to come on the show? Did you fall down the alt-right pipeline? Is that what it was? Were you a 15-year-old and you were like You were just like on TikTok, you were on YouTube Shorts, and you just saw a video of like Steven Crowder owning feminists on like a college campus. You know, Ben Shapiro owns SJW. What was the Milos? Who am I thinking of? Milo, or is it? No, I'm thinking of Milos Teodosic, the guy who couldn't stop smoking cigarettes, and that's why he didn't make it in the NBA. Milo, what is that guy's name? Someone out there is gonna know who I'm talking about. But there's like that. There's that core of older YouTuber. Not saying Steven Crowder's. Get to the fucking point, Nick. Dudes who would go on to these conservative voices going to college campuses and just picking on like freshmen and being like, owned, you fucking lib. It's really easy to fall into that trap, honestly. When you're like impressionable, the all right pipeline is a real thing, and I applaud you. It's weird that you listened to the Bonnie Cardigan show, though, as one of your third favorite podcasts, considering we were pretty libbed up on that show a lot of the time. I think some of it was just out of like corporate necessity, and because we knew that people within the team listened to the show, and so there was a lot of shit that we couldn't say or like didn't say. I think there was definitely some times on that show where I would say something about Tom Gores, and then it would be like, hey, you fucking can't say that about him because like his people listen to the show. So it's funny that I really respect that you've gotten out of that hole. I don't think that you're a fucking douchebag that you did listen to those shows in the past. But let's move on. So the fourth and final thing that you said here, Landon, was this is a reference to a pod from a long time. Oh, no, just move on, dude. This is a reference to a pod from a long time ago with that Brady guy who had a girlfriend who was a Christian and he wasn't, and you had mentioned that you think that you would like religion because of how you like to have something to follow, but you can't because you can't bring yourself to believe in it. And then you said, or something along those lines. No, that was pretty much it. I'll explain it in a minute. I just wanted to tell you that I'm a Christian who loves to discuss faith with people who believe different from me, and I have a different background and worldviews, and that was the first time that I had heard anyone say something along those lines, and I thought that it was very interesting. Yeah, I guess I could give you my quick little spiel on what I meant by that. I am not capable of thinking critically on my own. I am very much a product of hive mind, and I think I have opinions and thoughts and feelings that are of my own origin, but for the most part, I'm very much influenced by shit that I read and shit that I say, right? And so I'm a rule follower, right? I'm not a head coach. I'm an assistant coach. I need structure in my life. I cannot be the one to make those major decisions. I crave someone who can give me those directions to follow. The dynamic that me and my girlfriend have, she's the breadwinner. She's everything. She's the head honcho of the house. Okay. What she says goes. I like it that way. That's the dynamic that I want. I am a follower. I am not a leader. All right. And I don't, why did I bring that up? Because that doesn't technically tie into what I was about to say. But I have a hard time, well, I guess just that I love having something to believe in, but organized religion as we know it in this world, to me, always feels reductive to the greater universe that we live in. And I think, I really, really want to word this carefully. I think it ignores this greater concept of time and the divine in our universe, in our cosmos, and our lack of understanding of our origin. Because I just can't help but think, this isn't a profound thing to say, but I always just go back to, like, if I were to believe that there was an omniscient man out there who had my best interests in mind and who had a plan for me and who put me on this earth for a purpose, it just feels reductive, and it feels like I'm believing that so that I can feel comforted in having like a moral compass, which, by the way, didn't J.D. Vance say something recently where he was like, you can't have morals if you're not religious? whoops. I just think it ignores our grander universe. And I'm really not trying to disrespect you guys. I'm not, for those of you out there who are believers in, well, anything. It's not even just about Christianity. It's not exclusive to this email. But I just have a hard time breaking past. Because it's just like, to me, it's just built on like, I don't really want to go down this path because I respect too many of you guys out there to alienate any of you. And this is, it's believe it or not, one of the only, I'll talk about the Zapruder film all day, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw, did you see this, you hear about this? There's a new piece of JFK assassination footage that just dropped. Yeah, it's like hitting auction soon. And there's like a fucking guy in New Hampshire or somewhere in the Northeast where he's like, yeah, I just have this film from like right after JFK got shot and they're rushing his car to the hospital. And he's like on the tape is on like a Super 8. And there's only a handful of people who have ever seen the full film. Right now, there are only screenshots that are available from it. And they're going to put it on auction for, I think it's going to, the bidding is going to start at $10,000. And then they're expecting it's going to sell for like $100,000. I'm just like, why is this not just of public record? Why is this not of like public? Why do I have to wait for some guy to pay $100,000 for a video of the 63rd, not the 63rd, 46th? No, chill, bro. 36th. JFK was the 36th president. Why can't I watch a video of him getting his head blown off? Why do I have to, you know what I mean? Like, you're telling me only, we know for a fact that multiple people had cameras, even in the 60s. I don't want to, my grandma is going to listen to this and she's going to be like, Nick, I was alive when John Fitzgerald Kennedy was assassinated and I do not find it. Grandma, I don't need a text about this. I love you. I don't need a text about this. I'm just kidding. I'm saying this so that I'm saying this on your behalf so that I don't say all the stuff that I want to say about JFK's assassination. She's going to be like, I don't think it's funny that you think it says, I don't think that JFK getting assassinated was funny, but I think that I think it's weird that we know that there is more than just the Zapruder film. And there's suddenly 61 years, almost 61 years after his assassination, magically another video that comes out from the grassy knoll. Weird. This one went off the rails. Landon, thank you very much for that email. Let's move on to a different one. This one comes into us from Jackson. Jackson, welcome to the show. Subject line, throwing the book, ... out the window. Hey, Nick, just watched the Chiefs-Ravens game last night and witnessed the horrendous officiating. I'm a Bears fan who, just like you, enjoys a good dynasty such as the Chiefs. So I have no hatred towards Kansas City, but I felt like some of those calls were bullshit. Is there any officiating call that you specifically remembered that got you actually angry? Like weeks on end thinking about it ruined your mood. Maybe Armando Galarraga's final out call or Marian Hosa's no goal call versus the Ducks in the semifinal playoffs. You know what's funny about Marian Hosa? I actually don't remember what you're referencing. I don't remember that. But in regards to Marian Hosa specifically, respect to a legend, my biggest memories of him were the fact that we beat him in 2008. The Red Wings beat Pittsburgh in 2008. And then Marian Hosa that summer comes to Detroit because he's like, okay, I actually want to win a championship. And so then 1 year later, 2009, it's a rematch. It's the Red Wings versus the Penguins. Marian Hosa facing his former team in the Stanley Cup. He's got a chance to win a ring. Whoops. He shouldn't have left because the Penguins got our ass in Game 7. Truly one of the worst moments of my life. I think more about the Wings losing to the Pens in 2009 more than I think about the Lions losing to the 49ers, blowing a 17-point lead in the NFC Championship game. And that was fucking 7 months ago. I think about the 2009 Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals way more. So then Marian Hosa, he smokes another NHL Stanley Cup, and then eventually he gets one. It was with the Blackhawks, right? And then suddenly he just abruptly, and this is not answering what you're saying, but he just abruptly retires because he had an allergic reaction to like his equipment. and it like gave him like a skin condition or something, and he was like, I just straight up have to retire. I saw a Marian Hossa jersey, a Wings Marian Hossa sweater, maybe like a year ago at this point, in the wild here in Chicago. My jaw fucking dropped. I wanted to get out of the car and shake that guy's hand so bad, because that is an awesome sweater to have. Okay, so what are some calls that I think about even to this day? You nailed it with the Armando Galarraga, 28 out perfect game. Jim Joyce fucking that up. And even ESPN recently put out a little profile on Armando and on Jim Joyce, where Joyce was talking about, like, dude, if it was up to me, it would be instated there. Well, you can't reinstate something that didn't happen. It would be recognized as a legitimate perfect game if it were up to me. And it did a really effective job of humanizing Jim Joyce and just like, dude, he made a mistake. Like, it's at the end of the day, this is a game. Baseball purists will tell you that human error is part of the game, and Jim Joyce had a major human error that day. Something wasn't computing. The wires got crossed. I got to tell you, I don't care. Fuck that guy for life. I sit here and I say, if Brian Kelly walked up to me right now, I would give him the cold shoulder. I wouldn't shake his hand. I wouldn't look him in the eyes. I'm just like, I don't respect you as a person. Jim Joyce, I like to think I would play nice, but I think I'd see the fucking mustache and I would be like, you're an asshole. And I think the reason why isn't because I'm not empathetic. I think it's just because it happened when I was like 12. And so it was such a core memory for me, especially during a time in my life where the Tigers were competitive and we had aspirations of a World Series, right? We were off of the heels of Verlander had thrown, 2 no-hitters up to that point? I think he actually was that 2010, the Armando Galarraga thing. So Verlander had only thrown the one, which was 2007 against the Brewers. And then the next one wasn't like until 11 or 12 against the Blue Jays on the road. So it was a big deal to us, man. But let me move on. What's another one? The Aaron Rodgers Hail Mary that he had on Monday Night Football in Detroit. The only reason that got set up was because of a phantom face mask call. I don't think about that one as much, but that one is bullshit. Basically anything that's ever happened to the Lions. I mean, what was it? The Bears game, 2007 maybe, when Calvin caught the fucking ball and they said he didn't catch the ball. It was truly Dez Bryant. Did he catch the ball? Did he not catch the ball? Dez Bryant caught that fucking football. That overshadowed something that happened to Calvin Johnson just a few years prior in week 1 in Chicago. It would have won us the game. I think it was maybe John Kitna throwing that pass, by the way. If you want a jump scare throwback there, John Kitna throwing that pass. Calvin caught that fucking ball. Okay, let's extend it. Let's zoom out. Let's go down the time frame a little bit. Anthony Hitchens committing pass interference on Brandon Pettigrew in the wild card round in the wild card round in Dallas. They throw the flag, they pick it up and are like, yeah, no flag. Dez Bryant runs out onto the field without a helmet. That's a fucking flag. Didn't call that. Everything that came with that was horse shit. And then it was maybe 2017, 2018. We were playing at home against Atlanta. Golden Tate was down. It was definitely a touchdown. But was it? I don't remember. They called him down at the 1, and then the 10-second runoff got our ass. And we lost that game because we didn't have any timeouts. This doesn't count to what you're saying. Anything, Matt Patricia being alive, respectfully. Matt Patricia being alive fucking bothers me a lot. That guy's a rat. That guy's a snake. Did you guys see that Matt Patricia is actually the co-host for Bill Belichick's new podcast, for his new show? You're like, huh? And you're like, what? So let's move on to a different email. This one's going to come into us from Noah. Noah, welcome to the show. Subject line, mixed bag. Got another one of these. You guys just had a lot of shit that you wanted to say. That's fine. Let's just rattle these off. copinghoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically. Email available in the description, wherever it is that you listen to this program. Hey, Nick. I've noticed a big uptick in people talking about their disappointment in the job market. Oh, shit, right. This is kind of wordy, but I thought this was interesting perspective from something that we talked about in the previous episode about people not being able to get hired in jobs. So, okay, I don't think I'm going to have anything to say to this, but I do think it's interesting to read. Anyways, back to it, Noah. I've noticed a big uptick in people talking about their disappointment in the job market. And while I'm disappointed too, I fully agree with the advice you've been giving out. At least the bit about, quote, putting your nose to the grindstone, unquote. As much as people love saying that the job market is healthy right now, there are a few truths that make it difficult for most people to navigate. The first is that the master's degree is the new bachelor's degree. With how many people apply for a limited number of desirable jobs, it makes a huge difference. The other main thing is that who you know matters way more than what's on your resume. Another great piece of advice I've gotten to build a base. Another great piece of advice I've gotten is to build a base. Obviously, go for your dream job. But if you need to work for a few years at a job that pays the bills and allows you to live within your means to save up, then that's almost always the right move. I have 2 bachelor's degrees and work in a warehouse. The job sucks, but I make significantly more than most people coming out of college. It's a job, not a career. In the next couple of years, I'm planning on returning to school for grad programs, but I need to build up some capital to support myself through that time. It's all part of the process. Makes me sad hearing so many of the listeners are dismayed at the current state of the job market. Give it some time, put in the work, and hopefully things will work out. That's what I'm doing, at least. You fucking nailed this. By the way, it's not the end of his email. We'll get to some other stuff. I just want to say really quick, I think you nailed this. We've talked a little bit about the paper ceiling, I think, an episode or two ago. But then I know for a fact in the previous episode, it's like, dude, every job that you have doesn't have to be your career. It's okay if it's a means to an end. You know what I mean? When I started YouTube originally, it was a means to an end. I was like, I'm not doing this shit forever. I was like, I'm doing this so that I get hired by somebody else. And then I got hired by somebody else. And then they were like, you tweeted ambiguously racist shit when you were 12? You're fucking fired. And then guess what? Record scratch freeze frame. You're probably wondering how I ended up back here. Well, that's exactly how. Right? It's okay if you're just taking a job because it's like a paycheck and you're just like, I need to do this so that I could. It's a stepping stone. You know what I mean? To get to whatever plan it is that you have in place. I think you nailed this. Now, this is the question that you put after it that I really wanted to dig into because this is just what I enjoy talking about. So let's read it. When will the athlete salary bubble collapse? Contracts have been getting bigger and bigger for decades, and at some point, advertisers are going to realize that the contracts they get from major sports leagues aren't worth the return on investment, and that could be catastrophic for teams. And that's it. Noah, thank you for that. Can I give you some pushback there? Why won't it be worth it? More people are watching sports than they ever have. More people are talking about sports than they ever have. Engaging with the content, short or long form, than they ever have, right? The TV, let's use the NBA as an example. Okay? So the NBA just signs this ultra, uber, mega lucrative new TV deal with a handful of networks where they're getting paid like $2 billion a season. And so my question is the same as yours. When does it end? I don't think it does, brother. Because even if I've tried to lie to myself and toy around with like, when the United States government eventually cracks down on illegal streams, which by the way will happen someday. At this point, there was a time where saying the word Stream East or like sportsearch.net was like saying Voldemort. It was like, dude, don't put that out there. Don't say it in any public channels because you don't. But at this point, everybody fucking knows about it. As soon as we saw LeBron firing that shit up, it was like, okay, everybody knows about this. Dog, it was like a year ago that the United States government was like, hey, we know that this is a thing. And all these cable networks were like, hey, Congress, like, can you do something about this? I think they were like on the verge of a shutdown at the time. And they're like, yeah, we'll figure this out eventually. They know about this. And so I've tried to lie to myself and say, eventually maybe that'll catch up to it, and then if you cut off these illegal streams and then suddenly all the people who were watching for free and don't have cable subscriptions, like they can't watch anymore. Like, does that somehow fuck with it? And it's like, no, not really, because the people who were illegally streaming it anyways, that doesn't count for the viewership anyways, unless they have a way to like factor that in. You know what I mean? I think the only way that contracts get messed with in the NBA specifically, again, that's all we're going to talk about here. I guess it would be all 4 major sports leagues in America. if there was another recession, I think that would be a problem. Especially if there was another, you see like the bird flu and Mpox is the big thing. There was just recently a case of bird flu that got confirmed in a human that had no contact with an animal that had it. It was in like Missouri or something like that. So if you couple a few years of that with like another Trump presidency where he's like, that shit's not real. As long as you don't get tested, you can't test positive if you don't take a test, and the country devolves into like a pan dulce 2.0. I think that could be a problem, right? Because the TV deal that we're talking about here is insulated. It's protected in such a way that, the league's not going to go to the United States government and ask for a handout. They're not going to get a stimmy and be like, hey, we need to subsidize these contracts. Like, can you help us out a little bit? Steph Curry is about to get paid $63 fucking million in a few years. Like, we need a little bit of help here. I think they would just stop the games. If there was another major recession in America, they would just stop playing the games the same way they did with COVID. And then guess what? Players just aren't going to get paid. I don't think these numbers are going to go down just because the engagement is only going up. It's a really fun question. I just don't think anything's actually going to come out of it. So, folks, I got to be honest with you. I didn't know that we were already a fucking hour into the show. I thought we were maybe 15 minutes. I guess I am just on an absolute heater today. So why don't we just slowly start to wrap this thing up? What else is there? Anything else that I wanted to say? It was a fun weekend for football. Surely there was something else I wanted to say. No, I guess there's not. You know what, man? I don't need to drag this out any longer. Today was a good show, and I hope that you all have a good week. Start your week off nice. Hopefully your guys' teams won this week. I know I'm a Lions fan, Michigan State fan. I'm fucking chilling, dude. My vibes are high. Like I'm good right now. You know what I mean? Alrighty, folks. If you are listening to this on Spotify, be sure to rate 5 stars. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to leave a like. Nice little comment for the algorithm. Make sure to keep primary control in check. Fuck, brother. I've been meaning to do... Okay, merch reviews will be back in the next episode. All right? This is the last episode where I'm not going to sell shit to you guys. Coping Hour, thecopinghour.com is where you can get all of your merchandise for the show. A bunch of you guys have been sending in merch reviews. I've sincerely appreciated all of it. We'll throw in some pictures for the next one. Grandma, oh my God, I didn't even tell you. So for all of our Chicago-based listeners, the concrete beaches, how that's like 90% of the coastline here in Chicago. They're amazing. Love the concrete beaches, right? So right by our house near the planetarium, Grandma, I'm saying this to you for a reason. A guy caught a 42-inch pike. Just right off of I'm going to throw a picture of it on the screen. A 42-inch pike. Just right outside of our house. Look at this thing. Go get Pop. Is Pop in the room with you? I'll wait. Go get Pop. Pause it if you need to. Look at this thing. This is nuts. Folks, you don't know this about me. This is my favorite fish to catch in the world. I don't think there's a more beautiful fish. They're bastards. They're mean fish, right? We had so before my Pop and Grandma moved down to Florida full time, they were living up north in Michigan for 40 years. 50 years, a long time. They lived up there for a really, really long time. And one of their neighbors, every time that we would go up there, and he was up there too, he would always go out fishing for him and his wife and, whoever was up there, and he would just catch their food. And so, he'd go out at, 10 o'clock in the morning. He'd come back at 5, 6 o'clock at night with like a net full of pike. Sometimes it was 5, 6, 7, 10 pike. I would get so mad as a kid because I'm not thinking about sustenance and like you're just like feeding your family. You're providing. I'm thinking you're catching my favorite fish and killing them and taking them out of the lake and I can't catch them anymore, right? Because we were always catch and release. God forbid I was ever somebody who would catch a fish and then eat it. I would feel too bad, right? I was always catch and release and I always wanted to catch pike. And yeah, 41-inch pike, 42-inch pike, Grandma, just right outside. I guess I could just, all right, okay. I guess I didn't even know you could catch pike that big here in Lake Michigan. I guess it makes sense, but Jesus, gorgeous fish. They're dinosaurs, but they're gorgeous fish. Alrighty, folks. The old Midwestern goodbye. If you're listening to this on Spotify, be sure to rate 5 stars. If you are watching this on YouTube, leave a like, subscribe. Nice little comment for the algorithm. Make sure to keep primary control in check. I will catch you guys in the next one.